No, storage won't be recorded. To free up storage. Go live on X. Does anybody even watch on X? Oh, Twitter account doesn't even work. Cool. Off to a great start. Good afternoon. We're going to talk a little coaching today. Man, it's one of those days when you just wake up and you're like, feel tired kind of when you wake up and you think it's going to shake off a little bit. Then as the day goes on, you just realize, holy shit, I'm just more tired now than I was a little bit ago. That's kind of one of those days. Clear out some footage. I had Colton in the gym all day yesterday. What a treat. Dude is awesome. Enjoy hanging out with him quite a bit. The crazy thing too is how easy he makes some of those workouts look. It's insane. Like you watch him do the workouts and it's like it looks easy. You know, he's going up and over this box 12 times with a 100-pound dumbbell. And you're like, oh, that looks easy. Doesn't even look that hard. And then you grab the dumbbell and you try a couple yourself and you're like, what the fuck? Colton. I got to get better at pronunciating my words. Been told I mumble a lot too. Sounds perfectly fine in my head. I don't know what you're talking about. Hey, Extra Sloppy, what's up? Sleeky, hi. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. That's every day for me. That sucks. You got to get some more sleep. I try to get at least like 6 hours. Would love to get 8. What's up? Edgard. How you doing? I was so confused. Yeah. Colin was at the gym. Jeffrey Birchfield, what's up, man? How you doing? Pronunciating. Pronunciating. That's not a word. Shut up. Don't you tell me. So I wanted to talk a little bit about personal training. I want to talk about professionalizing the trainer. And I also want to have you guys share any. Rick, what's up from Cincinnati? Hi, how you doing? Cool picture. Quite a few people have that icon photo. That's dope. Colton's colon. I want to talk a little bit about coaching today. We started to talk about it yesterday, especially like the competitors coming into the gym versus the everyday members, and kind of the culture of your gyms. Oh, Jake, you're right. That was rude. Hi, Jake. Glad you're here. Thank you for being here. Thank you for not disliking me. Finally caught alive. Getting my L2. Oh, awesome. You'll enjoy the L2. You will enjoy the L2. If it's your first time doing it, it's going to be a little bit of a pressure cooker. They get you up and everybody goes into circles, little breakout circles, and they'll give you a movement. They're like, okay, teach it to the class. And without a doubt, with everybody staring at you, with the whole group of people that you're coaching, you know that it's going to be like they all know the movement and know what it's supposed to look like and know how the coaching is supposed to go. And so it's always a little nerve wracking because you get up there and you just feel like you're a little, you feel like you're just under this like pressure cooker. You know, like you go to type something in and you've done it 100 times and it's like fine. You could do it always, but the second 2 or 3 people look over your shoulder, you start misspelling or getting typos and stuff. That's exactly what the L2 kind of feels like. But the good thing about that is if you just completely let your ego go when you get there, you don't worry about how you look. Don't worry about trying to impress any of the L1 staff member there. Don't worry about trying to impress any other coaches that are there. Just worry about trying to absolutely take the most away from the seminar as you can. And the reason why I said like impress the people or worry about how you'll look in front of them, that's just because that was my own experience. I've done the first time I did it was called Coach's Prep. It was before there was an L2. It was at the ranch. And then I did the L2 2 other times. I had to get it renewed once because my stuff was going to expire. And then I got it a couple years back just because I wanted to take a course, just because like I enjoy being in that environment and it always fires me up to go back to coach at my gym. So like I'll go to like the L2 or even one of the old subject matter expert courses that they'd have, like weightlifting or gymnastics and stuff. And you get all these new tools in your toolbox, and typically you're pretty excited to go back into the gym. At least I am, and like share them, and like it just revs you up to get coaching again. So it's always fun. But don't worry about how you look in front of the other people there, which I know sounds kind of crazy. But the more you could just let that shit go and just be like, hey, I'm just here to learn everything. I'm going to pretend I don't know anything and just extract as much information as you can. Ask the coaches a lot of questions, really pay attention when other people are coaching, what you like about what you didn't like about it. When you're getting corrected up there, don't try to blow blast the corrections from the L1 seminar staff. Like, dig a little deeper on some of the information that they're giving you and have a good time with it. I feel like a lot of people get really nervous and they're worried about how they look in front of other people. And so you don't actually take away as much as you possibly could from it. At least that's what I've learned over the, you know, 11 years I've been taking courses and what have you. I'm Jake Chapman. I'm supposed to do my third L2 this year. I'm not sure I will. Meaning because like you don't want to do the course or you don't want to renew your affiliateship. I'm curious what your answer is there, Jake. Train, recover, repeat. You will be corrected no matter what. Yeah, great point. There's really no, when you go to those L2s or even the L1, there's no point to try super hard. So you're not, hopefully they won't give me any feedback. I don't want to be pulled into the middle of the circle. Don't worry about that because it's their job to correct you, right? They have to find something wrong. Otherwise they're not doing their job. I just don't see the value. Yeah. I mean, the third time I could understand that. I still got something out of it just because, like I said, I enjoyed being in that environment. But did I get as much out of it as I did on like the first one or even the second one? No. But I still took a lot away. I still took a lot away from it. I was an L3 until last month. How long does it take for those to expire? 5 years or 3 years? Are you an L3, Souza? I'm studying for it now. Crazy amount of content. I'm not an L3. For a while, I definitely was going down that path and like starting to dedicate some studying time for it. And I was going to pick a test date and do all that. And then I don't know, I just kind of lost the motivation for it. Work and a bunch of other stuff usually keeps me so busy too that I really have to like rearrange schedule and prioritize stuff in order to put it to the top of the list. Otherwise, it just starts to, you know, fall to the wayside. I- I'm I'm a bit in a side lane. I'm getting my USAW level 1 cert by EMOM. I don't know who that is. Hoping for the best so I could support the help and the affiliate. Yeah, anytime you go take one of those courses and you start to learn from the people that, are subject matter experts in weightlifting, you're going to take a ton away from that. You're going to take a bunch of different cues that maybe you haven't heard before, maybe approaching different, the lifts in different ways for beginners that you didn't quite have in your toolbox. So I always think that anytime you go to some sort of one of those certs, there's always information to extract from it. By the third time you go to it, like what Jake's saying, maybe not as much. So then you start to weigh the like, okay, well, I have to take a weekend out of my life. I have to pay the money, and this is the third time I'm going through it. No, 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 no. Right. Then it starts to change a little bit. But if it's your first time going through, or you're going through one of the other courses that is offered out there, um, lean into it. Have a good time with it. Samantha, I'm glad in my seminar, nobody was afraid to look stupid. And I'm super grateful for that because everyone benefited from the stupid questions. Exactly. Majority of the time, like you want to ask something, but you don't, or you're like, whatever. And typically, a bunch of other people have that same exact question as you. So the stupid questions are good because every now and then, or you might think you're asking a stupid question, and then that question leads to more information than you would have gotten had you not asked it at all. And then everybody benefits from that. Everybody does. Even if you like, what's the saying? We often need to be reminded more than we need to be taught. So when those stupid quote unquote questions come up, like we're just being reminded of maybe stuff we already knew, maybe stuff that we're getting a deeper understanding of, or maybe stuff that we knew, but we just forgot. So, Coach Flex, I just opened a smaller gym last month and I'm debating on affiliating it or not. Figured the L2 would be worth the experience regardless. Correct. Yes. Even if you're on the fence about affiliating or you just don't have the money to affiliate, I mean, it's fucking expensive. So if you did that L1, let's say you had your L1 and then I don't even know what the application and processing fees are now, but I know that those jumped up quite a bit. So let's say you were going to get all that in line and then you had to go get your L2 and then you also had to pay affiliateship. Like that could quickly get up in the neighborhood of, $6,000 or more. Again, I'm not familiar with the application processing fees and stuff that are now. So it could get expensive quick. I would say if you just opened and you're not already affiliated, I would hold off a little bit longer. I would try to get some more clients in. I would really just invest in my clients. I'd really invest in my relationships with them, and just worry more so about building your business. And then maybe in a year or so, when you have the revenue and things are a little bit more stable within your gym, then going back and saying like, okay, maybe I want to affiliate now, or revisiting that conversation. Hi guys, who are we ass pounding today? That was the earlier show. That was the earlier show. I don't. I think majority. I think this show will be. I'll be surprised if it breaks 1,000 views. There's so much drama out in the fucking ecosystem, and I'm gonna be honest with you guys. I could fucking care less. I could fucking care less. I care so much about the affiliates. I care so much about the message. I've said in other shows, like that's the hill that I'm willing to die on. And the fact that we're all distracted by like this letter or the PFAA, like fuck you guys. It has nothing to do with CrossFit in the way that I see it. And it's disheartening. CrossFit HQ does not give a fuck about the affiliates. Prove me wrong. Prove me wrong. Show me something. Show me one piece of evidence in the last year that shows that they've made an investment in the affiliates. That's what I care about. And I know the drama is enticing. I throw my hat in that ring all the time. I'm not going to pretend I'm above it. That's not what I mean here. I just mean the grand scheme of things, like the he said, she said, and we're going back and forth. And the drama is, that's what people like. That's what brings them here. But now it just seems like at this point we're just doing. I mean, I feel like so many people too have to stay with the whole games tragedy and the Luca thing and the back and forth with Dave just for relevance. Like they did a show on it and they're like, oh fuck, 500 people are watching this live because I'm talking about the drama. So now my next 10 shows are going to be on this. Because the second that goes away, I have nothing else to offer except for facilitating the drama. Sleeky, they don't. The caring ended in 2023 when they let all the OGs who were holding it down and keeping it real. 100%. 100%. The people that worked at CrossFit HQ in the past, you didn't need to explain to them what CrossFit was. You didn't explain to them what the importance of the message was. You didn't explain to them what the importance of the L1. You didn't explain to them what the importance of the affiliate was. Like they knew it. They lived it. And that's what made that company so fucking unique. And that's why I always wanted to like gravitate towards it. Like if I had the opportunity to, this is gonna make me sound like such a nerd. Like I would just go to HQ and like hang out. People would be there because it's their job, and I would just be there because I just wanted to be involved. And like now you don't have anybody there that is like that anymore. You have to bring people in and then you have to explain to them what's going on, which sucks. But there's also an opportunity in that as well. There's also an opportunity in that. Felicia, they care about collecting those affiliate fees, that's for sure. Yeah, revenue. Point of sale. And it's just becoming more and more evident. And then I'm like, the shitty part is, and I've had this conversation. I'm not going to name any names. I hate it when people would say that on all the other shows. But I had conversations with a lot of affiliate owners, especially in the past, I would say maybe 2 months, but really within the last like couple of weeks, it's felt like it's ramped up quite a bit. Where we're frustrated because people are like, dude, I don't even know if it's worth paying anymore. Like Jake said in the other thing, like I don't see the value in it. And that's what I'm struggling with so hard. Because it's like I don't want to just like give it up. I mean, I've dedicated so much of my life to this. And there's a couple of things. It's like once you don't pay the affiliate fee, like, then I'm doing functional fitness. So whatever. And at the same time, then I'm not a CrossFit gym in Livermore anymore. So you kind of give up that market share a little bit. But it's like, at what point do you decide that those things don't matter as much as like the fact that you're not getting anything from it? And then on top of that, if they're misallocating the dollars in my opinion, meaning they're spending it on shit that doesn't matter, on stuff that isn't going to help the affiliates, that isn't going to contribute, that isn't going to serve the affiliates, then at some point you're just like, I don't want to pay that much for something. Chris, I remember listening to Greg Glassman talk one time when he was talking about structuring CrossFit as an endowment fund, like a big universities. Anybody remember that? Chris, yeah, he's the last man standing in that way. CrossFit isn't CrossFit anymore since Greg sold. I had some there was like documents that were written in 2018, I think. And one of them's called the Caretakers of a Forest. And there was like a lot of information in there about like the identity of CrossFit or about these MBA types trying to figure out what it is that Greg did and how it was so successful. Like they invited him into like Harvard and all these other places to speak at these like prestigious business schools because they couldn't even wrap their minds around the way that he framed up CrossFit. Like they didn't understand it. And he would try to explain it to him, and they were still just like, oh, this seems crazy. This guy's just leaving so much money on the table. And now we have all those people that are in the positions of executives. And you could clearly see the struggle between the CrossFit community that has been around, let's just say like right up until that 2020. So if you join the community, CrossFit community after 2020 or 2021, it may not make as much sense to you. But everything like before that, it's like, it was just ran completely different. And so now you're bringing in all these other execs that only could see through one tube of like how to create business and value and everything else. And you could clearly see the changes that are coming from that. Madison, CrossFit is CrossFit in my affiliate. It may not be an HQ anymore. Yeah, but here's the thing, Madison, I agree with that. I agree with you. But the deal is like you have to have some sort of entity that unifies a message and disseminates that message. And so, sure, like a lot of people say, oh, well, like whatever happens at CrossFit HQ doesn't affect my members. And I agree with that. But it's going to affect you as an affiliate owner. It's for sure going to affect the professionalization of the trainer, which seems to me like I don't think they care about that at all. Matter of fact, I think they would rather give wholesale inventory prices of CrossFit gear to CrossFit gyms so that way we could resell CrossFit merchandise and take a small margin. I wouldn't be surprised if you had stuff come out pretty soon that was like, hey, as a CrossFit affiliate, you could get shirts at 50% off and then resell them to your members at a 20% margin. Like that type of stuff is going to be the issue, not are your members still doing thrusters and pull-ups. So I get 100% when people say like what's happening at HQ at CrossFit HQ isn't affecting my members. I understand that, but I feel that that's such the short term side of it. Like over the long term, you're going to see the effects slowly trickle down over time. One of them being this instance with the mainstream media picking up the death of Lazar and CrossFit having nothing in terms of media to establish its own narrative. Like CrossFit HQ doesn't have a voice, so there's no defense against anything that's going to come from mainstream. And then all of a sudden it's going to take a big campaign where they're going to say, hey, CrossFit is actually hurting people in the way they prescribe diet is dangerous. Then what happens? Where's the media in the defense of that? What's going to happen then? So that's the type of stuff that I think about. So in the short term, yes, I agree. You could always shield and protect your members from that. But in the long term, I don't know, man. I don't know. Slowly, you just all of a sudden become like the same. We're just imitating our imitators. Imitating our imitators. Madison, so you think it'll become more of a franchise, like more requirements? I don't think so. I think they'll find the affiliates that'll play nice, that'll want to be the point of sale. I think it'll shake out. They'll lose some of them. They'll be okay with that. But I don't think they'll franchise it because I don't think they have the competency and leadership to actually make that big of a shift and then instill like all those rules. And that's the difference between a licensing fee in a franchise, right? Like you said it here, Madison is like the requirements. So the second I start saying like, hey, you have to, you have to open your doors at 5 a.m. every morning. You have to have them closed by 7 p.m. every morning. You have to wear a little CrossFit polo shirt with the whatever, right? Your walls have to be like this color. That all of a sudden that level of control switches it from a licensing to a franchise. There are so many restrictions or rules in place that were there that now than there were 4 years ago for affiliates. Yeah, and that's the thing too, I haven't gone through the application process or, like, what any of that looks like now, so for all I know, like, there are a bunch of new rules and regulations in place before you could apply too. I'm not sure about that process now. Justin, love being able to be the first exposure point to CrossFit for my community. Being a part of the conversations that Greg extended to me is so amazing. Keeping it moving forward daily, amazing. That's awesome. That's awesome. That's awesome. And that matters just as much as like what Madison was saying too. Like you do have the ability to protect your members from some of this stuff, right? Like I don't unless my members come up and talk to me specifically. Like I don't start a class with like, all right, guys, CrossFit HQ doesn't care about the affiliates, right? Like I don't eh, unless they come up and ask me about what my feelings are on it or hey, are you going to affiliate or something like that? If they approach me with the conversation and want to know my opinion, then it comes down to my members. But I don't talk about it with them unless they're curious. And then in which case I talked about it and I give them my open and honest opinion on it. Sleeky, they're developing an app moving towards a SP street parking model. Yep, I could definitely see that happening over the long term as well too, right? Or making that like an option. They'll make it like an option, like, oh, if you're an individual, you could, be part of this app and get all these different tools and stuff like that, and you pay me monthly. The numbers shake out. I did a show on that like a couple months back, and if you're able to, um, if you're able to get individuals to do a monthly fee and have your annual affiliate fee, like that's a big, big jump in revenue. So something like that would not surprise me at all. It just makes sense when you think if your focus is how much can we extract from the CrossFit community, then having that as an option from HQ totally makes sense. RB, did you bring Colton to the VNE? I wish, dude. No, he didn't leave the gym. He basically got here at like 10 and warmed up, did two of the workouts, just basically chilled, napped, rested a little bit, recovered, and then did the other two, submitted his scores, and then headed right back out to Sacramento. So we didn't have a lot of time to hang out. Would have been cool to hang out and show him around town. Take him to the old V&E. Take him to the V&E at 11 o'clock on a Monday where the real V&E OGs hang out. Madison, I feel like the franchise talk scare has been for 10 plus years now. No, 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 no. Definitely not 10 plus years. Like there's no way Greg would have ever went. No way. Greg would have been allergic to that word. Even if he hired somebody and they tried to slow it, like I feel like no, 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 no. Recently, yeah, but I do remember back in 2012, people were worrying about it would go that way. I remember Greg focused on people working out at home, the blue jug days. I think you're thinking more of like 2019. And that was to shift the media from the sports side of things to the off the carbs, off the couch. There was no product in place for HQ to sell to individuals at their home. There was a shitload of free stuff, a ton of free stuff for you to be able to have the tools to do that on your own. But um, I don't think that there wasn't a product that was there then. The V&E is a old school like cowboy dive bar in Livermore that's in the middle of downtown. And just to kind of give you, why is my camera jacking up? What is happening, camera? I have to move around to try to like refocus myself. There it goes. It's an old like dive bar, like they only take cash. It used to be a straight up cowboy bar where they'd have like the two like little small barn doors too and shit. So it's kind of this staple of Livermore. Like if you come to Livermore or whatever. Dive bar. Okay, classy establishment, RV. It's a dive bar. Yes, 2019 days. I felt like you don't need to affiliate might have been just what I was feeling from HQ. Maybe. I could see that. So moving on to kind of the training stuff. I tested out the phone, say that loosely, but I think I have it hooked up. So I'll drop the call line on now. And if you guys want to tell any stories, good or horror stories, about any coaching or dropping in at places that you were before. It doesn't necessarily need to be like CrossFit gyms or anything, but feel free to give a call in and we could talk about it. But I really am with my staff and coaches that are at the gym, we're really focused on giving like a really great experience to everybody who walks through the door. And there's a couple things in the way that I see it that allows that to happen. Number one is you have to be, and this is going to sound crazy, and I know people are going to fucking get mad about this, but you have to focus, especially when you have your a new person in front of you for like the first month, let's say, maybe even 2 months. You have to focus on establishing a connection and trust with that individual. And what I mean by that is like majority of the coaches end up getting in and they want to start just focusing down on their movement. And that's important, obviously. You want them to be safe. But if you start layering too much on too soon, because it doesn't just quite look perfect. So you're like, you're trying to give them everything you got. They're the first time in front of you. So you're like, oh, you make sure you have your heels down, keep your chest up, bob knees out, blah, blah, blah. And you're giving all these, you just threw the whole entire kitchen sink at them. And oftentimes, especially if they're new to CrossFit, it just leaves them feeling super confused. And so what I tend to do is I'll limit myself to triaging like the one or two major things that I see. And so like if they're doing a deadlift and their back is like completely curved, I will be relentless about that. We're going to get in there and try to get them to get into a braced position. But once they kind of get it, I'm just like, at that point, I'm just going, great job. See, you're getting it. This is awesome. A few more reps. And then I'm establishing more of a connection with the actual person rather than just focusing on trying to make their movement perfect that right there in front of me. And a lot of people will say like, well, that's dumb. You got to, coach them up and blah, blah, blah. And that is true. But once you establish a connection with somebody, once you establish trust with them, coaching and cueing them becomes so much easier. And at the same time, you have to let them acclimate to the whole entire environment in total. Like just the intensity of the workouts, all the new words that are coming at them, just being in that new environment, being super uncomfortable in front of a group of people. Maybe they haven't even done like a group fitness type class before. So the more that you could really just build the relationship as the first step, that first month, 2 months with the person in front of you, the bigger long-term results you're going to be. Result you're going to have, not you're going to be. Result you're going to get. And especially when it comes to complex movements, simplify, simplify, simplify. If they come in and there's like squat snatch today in the workout, you're doing position 1, high hang, power snatch or muscle snatch. All I want you to do is get comfortable with using your legs to help drive the bar up over your head. And if we could get that, that's a huge win. That's a huge win. And I celebrate it like right in front of them. So like, meaning I had 2 new people at 5:30 p.m. How we assimilate people into the classes now. Fuck, I'm going to jump around all over the place. Whatever. You guys are along for the ride. Who cares? How we assimilate people into the gym. And I've done this in multiple different ways. I've done the 7 private sessions with just me, and then you try to get them into the class. I've done the 1 or 2 like sessions and then a couple where they're in the class. And anyways, what we found that was most important to onboarding somebody into CrossFit was just getting them comfortable with the people around them and establishing friendships inside the gyms or connections. That was it. The more I could integrate them into my community, the longer they're going to stay. And then we'll get their movement, and then we'll get their intensity, and then we're going to work on their diet. But if I could just make them feel comfortable and give them a home, and they don't feel awkward, and they feel like, okay, cool. Like I could be myself in here, and I know I'm not going to know everything. And I have friends that are going to help me out. Hey, the barbell's over here. Oh, you're looking for a box that's right around this side. Like the more that you could establish that with them, the longer they're going to stay. And so how we rearranged it now is if you come into the gym and you're brand new and you never done CrossFit, you do our startup course. It's 3 days out as a minimum, just a minimum, where you come into the 5:30 p.m. class Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday, and you work with a secondary coach that is with them as they go through the regular class. So lead coach comes up, does the whole whiteboard debrief. I'm just standing off to the side. The second they say, okay, let's go grab their equipment, I grab my group. In the instance of yesterday, I had 4 new people. I grabbed my group and I was like, all right, guys, cool. You're with me. Let me show you over here. We're going to go. And I have their spot already marked out, so we don't have to feel like we have to rush if it's a bigger class. I think we had like 18 in that class yesterday. And I help them through all of it. I'm like, okay, let's go grab our barbell. Let's go do this. Let's go get that, blah, 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 and kind of show them. And then and then we just work with them in tandem. So I step back. The coach will start going over any like coaching cues or mobility or the warm up. And then I'll jump in and give some more detailed information. Then I kind of fade back. And then when it's movement time, I'll jump in. And you're just kind of there holding their hand a little bit and giving them a little bit of extra feedback, instruction, a little bit more detail when they need it. And that has been a huge turnaround for us in assimilating people into our community. It has worked so well. And over the 10 years, I've tried a lot of different things. And the only issue with this is obviously it's a resource pool. So for some of you guys that are have smaller gyms and you're like, I am the only coach, I don't have anybody else. I get that. I was there too. I understand. So do what you can to make it work for you. But I've just found that when we assimilate them into the community and just give them a friend right away, it's the ultimate way to make them start getting more consistent, alleviating the fears of them coming into the gym. Okay, side note, now back to coaching. So when you have your whole entire class there in front of you and everybody's crowded around the whiteboard, some of the things that I see is people just read the whiteboard. And I always make the joke with my coaches, and we talk about this at the coaches meetings. I say, hey, just don't read what's on there. The people could read. They could see it the night before. They see it on the whiteboard when they come in. Tell them what's not there. Tell them what's not there. Tell them how, hey, the barbell is really light. So if we're not snatching 95 or 65 today, I want you guys to be able to do 7 reps in a row. Like give them something tangible and specific. It needs to be light enough to do 7 reps in a row today, guys. Okay, cool. We all got that. It all means something to somebody different in terms of the weight, but we all understand the objective there. Hey, this workout today is going to be a really like high heart rate one. You're going to get out of breath. That heart rate's going to come up, and that's so prepare for that. Here's what we're going to do to break up the workout. Here's how we're going to slowly roll into it so we don't gas ourselves out. Right? So giving them more information than is just written on the whiteboard. Of course, you're still going to maybe read through the workout real quick, but how the workout should feel, how the barbell should feel, how they should be addressing it, how many reps they should be considering when they break it into sets, all that stuff is super valuable information for those members to have rather than just reading what's on the board. And that's going to start to make it feel more personalized. Because then they say something like, hey, Sleeky, great job. You were working on your snatches last week. You were getting it down. Today we have 10 of them. So what we're going to do is going to roll with just that empty barbell. And with that, you'll be able to go right from the hang on. Oh, we got a caller. Fantastic. Let's see here. Did this work? Caller, hello. Welcome to the show. Maybe.
Hello, you hear me?
Yeah, I can. Fantastic.
Hello, yeah, this is great. This is RB calling from the V&E.
What's up, RB? How you doing?
Nothing. I have two things. One good experience, kind of in line with what you're saying, and it totally kind of goes against a lot of the negative stuff that I've heard about them. Is we were on a business trip on the East Coast, stopped in the CrossFit New England.
Oh yeah.
And while we were just buying shirts and just checking out, obviously one of the most world-renowned gyms at the time. This is in the prime when they were winning team and when Ben Bergeron was like kind of the man as a coach.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And we're looking at his shirts, checking stuff out. And then he personally came out introduced himself to the three of us, asked what we were about, if we are going to work out for drop-in. We couldn't. We were doing something that afternoon, but it went above and beyond what I expected out of an owner, because he kind of was checking in on us and then kind of finding out what brought us to his location. And it just sucks hearing a lot of the negative stuff from the fallout afterwards. He and his, I guess, athletes.
Yeah, that is kind of a bummer. What do you remember what year that was, RB, by any chance?
Shoot,
Like
had to be 7 or 8 years ago. Yeah, like probably 7 or 8 years ago. That was when it was right after they won. I think the team. I think Katrin was there. I think a couple of the elites were even training that day, and he had his hands full with everything going on. But he still made the time that, like, come out front, meet us, shake our hands, ask where we're from, what brought us there, all that type of thing. And I mean, if I lived in the area, that would have been a place that I definitely would have gravitated towards just based on that first experience.
Yeah. The reason why I asked what year is because I actually did Ben Bergeron's immersion program. It was like 3 days where you just
I remember you talking about that.
Yeah. And that was like 2016.
Yeah,
January.
Maybe you were there and he was just trying to show off for the group that was there, and he never does that. Maybe that was.
Hey, no, I would say that's probably pretty indicative of a usual experience. Ben was a very personable guy.
And two other complete things. One, regarding the PFAA, do you think it's a hindrance to have active athletes leading it, in opposed to someone that recently retired? Like, I picture like a Josh Bridges. Obviously, Froning's got his hands full on a lot of other things, but someone that's pretty outspoken and not afraid on how it's going to impact, their career and the judging against them, as opposed to two active athletes that are still in the fold.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. I think there's a conflict of interest when you have active athletes that are also on, like, in that position in the PFAA. I think like a Ben Smith, a Scott Panchak, or like people that are, like you said, like, retired, quote unquote, or aren't as like active in it, but have just this wealth of experience and knowledge. That's who they should be gravitating towards, not people that are actively competing.
And two other pieces to that. One thing I was kind of confused about is I didn't realize that teens, adaptive, masters, and teens, not teens, that they weren't all represented. I thought it was like kind of they represent everything, and it's not. It's just the elite group, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, which makes it, even in my mind, that seems like less legitimate, right? Like, if you're the safety entity or the voice for the athlete, shouldn't you be encompassing like everybody?
And then it's no longer, it's kind of fragmenting the whole community of athletes in a way. I mean, that's the way I look at it.
I agree too, because then all of a sudden, what happens if somebody on team or a masters athletes have an issue or something like that? Like, who represents them, right? And then if the PFAA doesn't, then do they have to come up with their own thing? And then now you have these little silos of different athletes. Yeah, man, I agree.
Right. And it seems like the more that comes out, there's a lot more silos, and it's a lot more fragmented than it's presented. I mean, just hearing Angelo and Saxon talk about their perception on how it went down that day. And then one thing in closing, I think it's kind of nuts, is, wasn't there 80 athlete interviews with Dave?
Yes. Or 79, because somebody got popped for steroids.
Okay. So 79. That being said, one of his final questions to every athlete was, is there anything you have for me? Any questions you have for me? And I believe 79 of them, they might have had some random question about, programming or fun or little things, but none of them expressed a safety concern. And we all get there is a safety concern. That's going to be found out and identified. But for all of them, all of a sudden, to say they had all these issues 3 or 4 weeks leading into it, and then all of a sudden this happens, and all of a sudden they're standing under a podium, demanding change. And it's like, wait a minute, you just had 79 opportunities to bring these up.
Yep, 100%.
Just my thought.
No, I agree. And RB, I'll take it one step further. I was going to say Greg. Dave set up all those interviews via email with them. So not only did you have the opportunity, like maybe they were like, oh, well, I felt uncomfortable because I was on camera, but now you had a direct line of communication with Dave as well, right? Like, he reached out to those athletes and he said,
stand-up move. and Pancheck actually reached out to Don Fall post incident to kind of like express some things. And I think he got a response, and that's just a perfect example. Instead of like hiding behind, whatever interview you're on, and then going public with it before you really have the findings. Everyone knows during an active investigation, they can't come out and speak about it that much because they're worried about the fallout as far as lawsuits and that. There's going to be a lawsuit. We know that.
Yeah.
But they're not going to come out and say, oh, you're right. We should make all those changes. Matter of fact, we're going to. Well, might as well shoot yourself in the foot on that one.
Yep.
So,
yep.
I mean, so anyway, just a couple things with PFAA related, and then my experience with Bergeron and CrossFit New England.
Yeah, that was cool, man. Thanks for the call.
You got it. Is that the only call today? Come on, folks.
So far, that's all right. I'm hopeful. I actually, while you were talking, it reminded me of the immersion program, and I was curious as to what the exact time I did it. And I remembered I actually sent out like a couple of emails back and forth with Ben and stuff. And Harry Paley, yeah, I think that's how I pronounce his last name, when he worked with Ben, and I found some of my emails, which is cool. I'm gonna read one of them here. Which is it's kind of interesting, little time capsule.
And I was glued to his podcast, and then unfortunately I got led a little bit astray based on all the fallout that he had with different athletes. But I think when you get down to the nuts and bolts of what he's about, he has a great message. Unfortunately, the comp train thing kind of blew up, and if he would have just stayed a little more in his lane, but everyone that's an entrepreneur knows you got to push the envelope in order to succeed. And he did. It didn't work out. And he's back to kind of his roots again, it sounds like. So
yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah. Cool. Thanks, brother. Have fun at the
keep it up, Souza.
have fun at the V&A later. Oh yeah, that's hilarious. Dear Ben, if you let me in, I'll give you a standee on an hour. Thank you. Do you have access to my emails? What the hell? How'd you know? That's verbatim what it says. Oh my gosh. Madison, hey, I did that course in 2015-ish. Oh, dang. We just missed each other. So I did it in January of 2016. I know that now because I got the thing up here. You guys want to hear an email I wrote to Harry? It was 8 months. It's called the Immersion Program Review, 8 months. This is interesting. It's kind of cool. I'm glad I time stamped this a little bit with this. That's funny. Okay. There was a question about warm up. We'll go back to the coaching stuff, and then I'll let you guys know about that email. Ian, what are your thoughts on going through the entire workout before starting the warm up? I've been to gym. The microphone is in my eyeball. I'm trying to stab it out. That is so fucking boring. I think coaches need to remember when they're in front of the class, there is an element like you are giving a performance, and you need to make it exciting. One of the things I used to talk about at the coaches meeting at CFL is I would say like, hey guys, we're competing. And I used to actually use Barry boot camp and stuff. And there was a boxer size type gym in Livermore too that came in. I was like, hey guys, we're competing with that. And what I mean by that is when they come in, the music's already going, the energy level's all the way up. People are moving right away. I go, so if you don't know the difference between CrossFit and one of those, and you come to a CrossFit class and I'm going, okay, it's going to be a front squat. So we're going to get the bar up to the front rack position. And you're just staring at me while I'm like giving this fucking rundown in front of the whiteboard. It is just boring. And you don't need that much information because the majority of your members are one, they're going to forget it if they listen to it. And the real on it is they're probably already tuned you out. So, yeah, you gotta get up and you got to get moving because you are in somewhat, to the person who doesn't know the difference, in competition with those other gyms for your members' attention. So if you bring up that whiteboard, debrief should be like, unless you're doing something fun where everybody's engaged, like we'll do like, a name game. Sometimes I do this thing and if the class is big enough and there's a couple faces that I know are newer or something like that, I'll make a $5 bet with anybody who wants to take it. And all they have to do is say everybody's name that's in the class at the whiteboard debrief. So we'll do fun stuff like that if I'm going to hold you there, where it's more interactive. So that way you're engaged in the conversation. But for the love of God, do not go over every little detail standing in front of the board. Like you've just bored everybody. Get them in, get them moving, get that music up. Then once you get people moving and you get a little sweat, you can kind of like tone it down, get a couple stretches in, maybe go over anything that you want to at that point. But do not just go over the whole thing in front of it. It's just so boring. Eaton Beaver. Souza, I'll be at the affiliate summit this coming week in San Diego. Are you coming? No, I'm not. I would go, but just with all the travel that I had, like if it was here in Northern California or relatively closer in the drive, I would definitely I would have definitely gone to that. So it's not like I'm like anti the affiliate gathering. In fact, that's the one thing that I think, or the only thing really that CrossFit is offering HQ. But no, I will not be attending, unfortunately. Barry McCockiner, thankful Souza doesn't have to hold his phone today. I know, dude. Like, was it you that commented and you're like, oh, now he's using his other hand to support his hand with his phone? You were 100% correct. And it wasn't anything on the callers. It was just the fact I had to hold that phone up to the microphone. Madison, Harry is great. Harry was great. When I went to the immersion program, I was the only person that was out of state. So everybody else like drove there and stuff like that. And Harry was super great to me. He literally was like, "Where are you staying? Oh, you're at the Marriott up the street. Cool. You want to ride home? You want to ride over there? Awesome. Hey, I drive right by there. You want me to grab you on the way into the gym? Do you want to hop in the car and we'll cruise to lunch together?" Like he literally, and he didn't have to do any of that. And I wouldn't have expected him to at all. But he literally carted me around. I wonder if he remembers me. Do you guys think he remembers? Harry. Um, Yo, wizard, hey. Okay, now I'm just getting crazy. But yeah, good dude. Good dude. Good dude. Dude, Harry was that program. Yeah, Madison is gonna exactly. I loved hearing everything he had to say. Ben felt more like the name to the program. Yes. Yes, yes, yes. You are correct. Ben had some, Ben was like involved in ours for sure. So I don't want to make it sound like, Ben just like stood in the room and did nothing. But Harry was a big driver of that program and when I was there. Then he gave so much to all the answers if you for questions you had or like just really detailed, great explanations of stuff. So good dude. Good dude, Harry. Okay, so going back to the coaching piece, yeah, once you have everybody in at the whiteboard there, your job is to get them in, tell them what's not on the board, explain to them the workout, give them some tips and tricks, let them know what it's going to be like, and then move them out to the floor and get them moving right away. Typically, you'll do some sort of, just general warm up, right? Might be a bike, might be a row, might be a run, depending on the workout that day or something of the sort. And then typically once we do about minute, 2 minutes of that, I'll start moving them through simplified versions of whatever it is specifically that we're doing in the workout. So if we're doing wall balls, I might have them squat with the ball a few times, press the ball above their head, do a few thrusters with the ball, then go have them bring them over to the wall, then do a few wall balls. So you're kind of building up the progressions of your movements. And if you build up the progression of your movement like that, you're also using it as a crystal ball for all the new members in front of you. Because if you're unsure, like, oh, I wonder, I haven't met this person. I've only worked with this person for a little bit. Okay. And by the way, hopefully you've already checked in with them, introduced yourself and asked them, hey, you got anything going on that we need to know about before you get into class and, checked all those boxes. But it also allows you to see where they are in their journey. So if you're doing something with a barbell, let's say, and your first thing is like, all right, bring it up, do a couple elbow rotations, warm up that front rack position. Okay, let's do a couple strict presses. Cool, let's do a couple push press. Okay, now let's get into the push jerk. Then maybe you're giving a little instruction. You can kind of see as they're building up, like, okay, we're going to stop them today at the strict press because they don't even have the overhead mobility to be that dynamic in their push press or push jerk. So I'm going to go right on over to Mason and be like, hey, we're doing push jerk today. We're eventually going to get you there, but I just want to stay with strict press today so we could really open up those shoulders. And I need you to get that arm to cover that ear at the top, nice and locked out position, right? So you could start to simplify that. Then maybe they'll get that down within that same class and you could say, great, now we could potentially work on the, using the legs to do the push press, but simplifying that movement down and using specific movements in your warm up to build up those progressions. It just makes it easier for you to get the landscape of like how everybody's moving and where they are in those movements in their fitness journey. So that way you could say, okay, I'm going to go work with this person on this. This person needs this. This group is great. We're just going to touch base with them once they get a little weight on the bar. right? Whatever the case may be. CFL do an on-ramp program. I talked a little bit of that probably right before you got on, Christian. We do, but how we do it is a little bit different. We just put them right in the main classes, but I have a secondary coach that's there just with my on-ramp group. So that way that coach is like simplifying, giving more details, personalizing the workout as necessary, all of that stuff. But they're actually in doing, to a certain degree, the class workout. And that way I could just get them immersed in my group right away. I just bring them in, and we got the scary parts over. They've already done it all. Now they're starting to meet people in the classes. They're familiar with the lead coach who they'll probably see at other classes. And we switched that this was recent. We recently switched that to maybe about 6 months ago, 4 months ago. And it has by far been the best like conversion from people coming in and getting assimilated in the classes and then staying as members for a long time. How do you best get people to not feel bad or lesser when you stop their movement at a level or two? Oh, okay. So like if we're doing push jerk or whatever, and I stop them at strict press, it's because I tell them that we're not worried about the actual movement of the day. I'm worried about your overhead position. And so if we don't know how to, crawl, to walk, to run, there's no point for me to start you running. It's just going to be confusing. It's not going to really help your progress at all. And we have these conversations. Like I set expectation right at the beginning. So if I'm working with a new group, like I was with the 4 people today or yesterday, and we had snatch in the workout, I'm letting them know right away, hey guys, we're going to work on this portion of the movement. It's going to be a simplified version. The reason why is because this is the most important part of the movement. Once we get this down, we can start to layer other things on. And then what ends up happening is they get that first portion and you could start working on it with them. Like in the case of the snatch, it was just position 1 muscle snatch essentially. And then we could start to celebrate it. Oh man, you got that. Whoa, you used your legs really well on that one. Did you feel the difference? Awesome. Hey, is it feeling better now that with the hands wider? I know that feels super awkward at first. Oh, it is? Cool. Hey, your overhead position's getting better. The bar's landing in the right spot. Does that feel more comfortable? Right. So I'm not even worried about like you're doing something lesser. I basically tell them that what you're learning is the most important part of this movement. The other shit's just fancy bells and whistles that'll get you there. And then when they start to get that first portion of it down, I'm just like celebrating the hell out of it. Like, oh my gosh, look at you, 5 reps and you're already starting to get it. Imagine what will happen at 50 reps. Yeah. You'll get that movement down, right? Like, so people, they feel like they get it. They feel like they're learning, and they feel like, okay, I could see the progression of how I could get now from strict press to push jerk. So I just make it more about that portion of the movement than anything else. Yeah, Samantha, small celebrations make the world's difference. So much. So much. Because like if they could leave feeling like, man, I got that. Like that was awesome. I got that movement down. Like I had fun in class today. Like that is a massive success, because now they're like excited to come back. And so as coaches, like when I started this, I was like, if you try to give them too much too soon, they'll leave feeling like confused and shit. Maybe this isn't for me. Like everybody else could do that push jerk, and he was spending 10 minutes with me and I couldn't even get it. Like I didn't even understand what they were saying. But if you switch that and you just have them do strict press and you're like celebrating the hell out of the fact that they just got into a good overhead position and they could do it without bending their knees, and maybe they're not lifting the rib cage when they press, like all those little things, like then all of a sudden they're like, damn, I'm getting this down. I'm pretty good at this. And you're like, yeah, come back. We're going to layer that next step on. So really focus on those small wins. And word choice is important in that. I wouldn't ever say like, hey, we're going to do like lesser or progression 1. Typically, I would say this is the most important part of the movement. And so we really want to get this down. Don't worry about that other stuff that you're seeing out there. We just need to get this part dialed in. And so then all of a sudden they're not thinking that they're like behind in anything. They're thinking they're just learning the basic of the most important part of the movement. And they are. It's not like a lie, but I'm not telling them, hey, you're not doing push jerk. You're going to do strict press because you suck. So it's all about that wording. So after we do some specific movement stuff, By this time, everybody's sweaty. By this time, you've seen everybody move to some degree of each of the movements. And then we'll kind of do like this little calm down period where we'll do a little mobility session. So, for instance, if we're using yesterday as an example, after everybody has gone through it, everybody's heart rate's up a little bit. We're kind of a little sweaty. Then I'll say, okay, bring it on in. We'll kind of get in this little circle, maybe open up that hip flexor. We'll start to open up the lats, the shoulders. We'll kind of do that in a group and just do a little mobility / like stretching period to let everybody's heart rate come down, and then to also just stretch out any things that might be tight or anything. And typically, I like to get them moving quite a bit before we do that, because in the past, when I would first start coaching, I would bring them in, I would get them stretching like a lot and be like, "Yeah, see, we really care." And it's like that was kind of a mistake, because unless I get them warmed up and get them moving and just fire up that range of motion first, sometimes like the static stretching isn't the best call before you do that. And we'll do very little. I like to do more dynamic stuff. So we'll do like groiners, and you'll reach your elbow down to the floor and like rotate in. So that way, even when we are stretching or mobilizing, we're doing it pretty actively. Now, there's definitely a place for some quick static stretches, like right before you get into the strength training or the movements. Or the workout. But I like to keep that to somewhat of a minimum. Now, Father Wexford, greetings from the covenant, blessings. Thank you. I will take all the blessings, prayers, anything. Thank you. And so once I get them stretched out and everybody's feeling good, I have, and I've done it twice live. I've done it twice live, and it's on my YouTube channel, because nobody nobody knows about that YouTube channel. There's very few people that watch it, so it kind of hides over there. But I think I have it dialed in enough to where I could actually mic the coach, have a mic facing somebody who's running the controls, and then a camera and the person running the controls on a mic, and two cameras out on the class. So that way you could see it in real time. Actually, you guys want to check it out? I'll show you real quick. This is what it looks like. And then I'll show you what the evolution of it will look like. I will be praying for you. Thank you. You want to see something I got after the games that the Mayhem crew and my good buddy Will Brandstetter recommended? This boy. Thick. Getting into a little bit now. So here, let me show you the YouTube channel. Maybe I might have put it as like unlisted. Strong possibility. Oh, here we go. Boom. Okay. Ba-ba-bum. So this was it. I didn't get this set up in time to actually start it when we started the class. But this is obviously me there, and then my buddy Nicoa, longtime member. That's Grace. She wasn't coaching the class; she was doing the class. But yeah, so this is the class setup here. It's a little fuzzy because I gotta get that internet dialed in. I think I could hardwire it into the internet next time, which should alleviate any like the static stuff that you're seeing here and all that. But yeah, so Brad's coaching the class here. You could see him kind of commanding, walking around the room a little bit. What I did is what I learned to do now is I could actually mic Brad, who was coaching this class, or mic the coach. And then we could have a toggle switch, so I could turn them up or turn them down. And then the small screen that you see in the bottom left-hand corner where I would sit at, or whoever's running the commands would sit at, could kind of switch camera angles. And I think you'll see in this one, we do have a second camera angle. This one, which was a little bit tighter in on the shot there. And we forgot to turn the display off, so you see all the display with it. But yeah, so we'll be able to play with that quite a bit in the future. And that's something that hey, there's Jared Ellis, Sentinel trainer. Good dude. But yeah, so you could kind of imagine how this would go over time. But my idea here was that if like we stream some of these classes and some of this stuff like this, like it would just give a cool reference. People can kind of see it and whatever, pick it apart, use it as their own. So I do plan on doing more of that. Just of course, everything is like, how many more things can I load on my plate? So what's that, Kenneth? Just use the Bible app, Souza, way easier. Has planned to read the Bible in a year, tracks days, etc. Is it just called the Bible app? I'll definitely check that out. Cody Baker, is your coach's handbook on school? It's not. It's not. Maybe it should be. Probably set that up. So yeah. So anyway, so I did live stream a couple classes, and hopefully I'll be able to do a few more. I just enjoy doing that. It's kind of fun, and like to sit there and talk over the class. Like I had a good time with that. So after we do all our stretching, you do some mobility. We get everybody warmed up. By this time, we're pretty much good to go. And then depending on the movement, like yesterday, we had some technique work with the snatch. So we did a snatch deadlift followed by one high hang snatch followed by one power snatch, and you had to hold on to the bar the whole entire time. And the focus of this was technique. So they weren't allowed to, you could add weight to get a little feedback and stuff on the bar, of course. And that looks different for everybody. But the goal of this wasn't to actually just build up to a heavy max for the day. And we were very specific about that. So then we go through some group instruction together. This might look like a quick little barbell warm up, a couple deadlifts with that snatch grip, a couple presses above the head with the snatch. And then we'll do it together as a class. We'll cue it like position one, set and go, hold, good, back up. Our rule of thumb here is every whatever the main movement of the day is, like yesterday was snatch, you need 2 points of performance. So that way we're just focusing on two things. The two things that I focused on yesterday was keeping the bar close by bringing your elbows up and landing when you land in your power position, making sure that your hips are back. So we're landing in a good kind of like quarter squat position, not hips forward and that weird funky thing. And that was it. And that's what I drilled. Just boom, boom, boom each time. And when you break it down to 2 points of performance for every movement like that, and you really just stick to those, of course, there'll be tweaks here and there for other people, but if you really just stick to those, um, and you'll be able to really drill that section in, as opposed to just being all over the place or not really having a game plan coming in. If you got a game plan coming in and you got your 2 points of performance, like you'd be surprised at how many people could really absorb that pretty well. So then after we go over the instructional period, a little technique, get everybody set up, make sure they're moving well. Also, too, I will give a little correction during that time, but I'm mostly taking mental notes. So like if you were to walk into my class and you see me doing the 2 points of performance and doing those instructional things, you might see me roll through that and you might see like 1 or 2 people in the class where it just looks like a train wreck. And you're like, dude, what are you doing? Look at those 2 people in the back over there. I've taken that mental note. And if I can't get a quick like, hey, Matt, move your feet a little bit wider for me. There you go, bud. Okay, class, set, go. Like if I can't give like a quick fix like that, I'll just take a mental note. And then when we go to the strength portion or the technique portion, those are the first 2 people that I'm coming to. And before they get any weight on the bar or anything else, I'm going to go spend a minute with them and just like reiterate what we went over in the instructional piece, give them a little bit more detail. That way I could get them moving correctly. Rather than just kind of trying to do that while the whole entire class is like waiting. And then typically all of our technique and all of our strength training stuff is always done like on the every 2 minute, every 90 seconds, every minute, every 2 minutes and 30 seconds, just depending on the lift, depending on how heavy and depending on how much rest we want. And I do that rather than like 10 minutes to do whatever, or 5 minutes to do whatever, because it keeps the class together. And so if we have 8, if we're doing like 5x5 back squat and we know that it's going to get pretty heavy, maybe I'll give like every 2 minutes and 30 seconds. So that way it forces a good amount of rest into there. And when the clock beeps, I could look at one section of the room, watch them do all their reps, and I could go over there, give feedback to whoever needs feedback. And then I could look up at the clock and say, okay, cool, I got 30 seconds. I'm going to watch this side of the room. It beeps. Everybody goes for their second set. I check it out. Okay, cool. I know I got another 30 seconds, 2 minutes to go over and give, all of these people some feedback on their movement if they need it. And then it beeps and they all go again. And so that way, as me for a coach too, I'm also able to keep everybody together as well. And that makes it a lot easier just to keep the group as one. Also allows coach to see all reps for correction. Exactly. Yep. Because then after you give that feedback and you're like, it beeps and you call out like set 3, you stand there and you watch everybody you just gave feedback on. And then you're like, cool. And then you go over and, do whatever else. But if not, it just turns into chaos. Like and we've done this in the past. I'm not going to pretend like we didn't do it. This is all like learned shit. But uh, if you do like the build to, 5x5 and you have 15 minutes to do it, you have people that are like all over the place with it. And so it's really tough to actually coach them on any of their movement. And then on top of that, the people that are going to be going really heavy will need a lot of that time. And the people that are maybe new to it that aren't going to go that heavy, like all of a sudden, like 2 minutes come by and they're like, oh, I'm done. And you're like, no, try to do 2 more sets. Like, okay. And they're just kind of waiting around for the workout. And then all of a sudden it just turns into like your strongest people taking all the time to lift. So by doing it on some sort of every 2 minute, every 30 second, whatever the schedule will be, it allows for the people that aren't going to lift that heavy to make sure they get in some good reps. They know how long it's going to take. They have their timing, and it allows for the people that are going to go heavy to have that time to do so as well too. Zach, just sign up for a date and do it. Your experience, with your experience, you could study for a couple of weeks and be fine. That's what I did. Passed first try. I studied for a total. Congrats, Zach. That's cool. Yeah, it's not some. Yeah, you're right. You're right. I was gonna give you some bullshit excuse, but you're actually right, Zach. If I just set a date like and paid for the test 2 months out, that would force me to do it. So I won't give you any bullshit excuse. You're correct. I just need the motivation to do it now. Zach, how do you program strength cycles throughout the year? Now, in this question, I'm just assuming you're going to be talking about the general class. For how I program for the gym, I don't plan strength cycles. I don't. I used to be really meticulous about it in the past. And what ends up happening is like people just aren't consistent enough. And so if you do percentages or you try to do like progressive overload, or if you put a lot into the strength training, which I definitely have, like all of a sudden you realize like, oh man, half of these people didn't even follow it. We're on like week 3. This is some of their first time squatting. And it's like, so it just gets really jumbled. So how I plan strength now is we just make sure that we just hit all of our major lifts, like the big 3, every like 7 days. So we squat, we pull from the floor, and meaning like deadlift, and we press overhead or press in general. So I just make sure like every 4 days, one of those movements is kind of being hit. So like back squat, maybe front squat, maybe overhead squat. For all the squat buckets, pressing is going to be like bench press, overhead press, push jerk. And then the deadlift is pulling from the floor. And then we'll usually do snatch and clean and jerk as well once a week. So those ones just go on a rotation, the major compound lifts, and then the snatch and the clean and jerk just gets fit in once a week. And so there is a little bit of method to the madness, obviously, but it's not like a strength training program. Just because, like, if I would do that on a one-on-one basis, I would definitely do that. I'd probably do like hatch squat cycles, one of the favorite ones that I've done. I've done conjugate method. I did the Smolov. You remember that? The squat cycle that was made for only people on steroids. Madison, yep, strength cycles with non-professional athletes is dumb. Yeah, I mean, it's just a lot of effort. And Madison, I'm assuming you're talking, Mason, I'm assuming you're talking about that out of experience, meaning you've written out this detailed thing, spent a lot of time on it, and then you have athletes that don't even do it at all, and you're just like, that was a complete waste. Smoloff Jr. messed me up. If you can make it through Smoloff Jr. without some sort of knee, back, or hip thing, then you've done it correctly because you're on steroids. Like if you actually do that program in the way that it's supposed to be done, it'll jack you up. And that's me with the program I write. I haven't done any of the first 3 weeks in its entirety strength work because of work and travel. Yeah, it happens. It definitely happens. Full small off. Did you get hurt? No, I just quit. I got like a hip thing. It wasn't really like an injury, but like I definitely was feeling it. And then I think I made it through like 4 weeks or something and then stopped. Myself and a couple other guys in our location wish that we would bench more, but it just never comes up in our programming. Is that more because sometimes that could be a logistics thing? You know what I mean? Like if your gym just doesn't have that many benches and stuff like that. But usually we try to get bench in, whether it's dumbbell bench press that we'll do in Metcons or whether it's more strength training bench press that we'll do like with the barbell or something like that. We usually try to get that in. Same thing, like every 7 days on rotation or something. Graciano, bench sucks. Men stand to press. That's funny. I've never heard that before. So we've taken them now through our whiteboard debrief, which was fun, engaging, and told them what wasn't there. We have a general warm up and a specific warm up that has some energy in it, making sure that they're moving, they're having fun right away. We're shaking all the dust off of the workday or waking you up if you're in the morning class. After that, we'll slow it back down a little bit and we'll do some sort of mobility work, some sort of active dynamic stretching or movement through the hips, through the shoulders, whatever the case may be for the workout that day. And then I'm focusing on some instructional period. I'm got dialed down to 2 points of performance on the main lift that we'll be doing or the main movement that we'll be doing. It's not always a lift. Sometimes it's just a gymnastics movement is the main thing too. After we give some drills and skills with the 2 points of performance, we do some practical application of that. So whether that's some strength training or whether that's some technique work or something, and that's always done on the minute style. So that way we can keep the class together and give ourselves time to give some feedback and give ourselves some time to watch, see, and correct movement without it just turning into chaos. Then after that, we'll do a quick little breakdown period where we'll say, okay, guys, let's get our barbells. Let's get everything arranged for the workout. So everybody has all their stuff arranged. We switched the weight to the bars, did whatever we need to do. And then we'll typically do some sort of walkthrough of the workout, meaning like 2 to 3 reps in the order that we're going to do it real quick, just so everybody could get the flow of it down. We could make any last minute adjustments on the movements if we need to adjust it, make any last minute adjustments for the weight if we were like, oh, I kind of overshot that. Or like I tell the members too, if you're in between the weights, just give yourself a good exit strategy. So if I want to try the 95-pound snatch, but I know that might get a little heavy for me, I'm going to load it with a 15 and a 10. That way I could just switch, drop that 10 off and keep myself going. And then after we do that walkthrough, we give a couple minute water bathroom break. So, hey guys, go grab some water, go to the bathroom. And then right there at that time, I'll stand in the middle of the room and say, okay, guys, water, bathroom break. And if you have any questions or I have not checked in with you yet, please come see me. And so that way I make myself open and available. That's it. Come see me. And typically by that time, though, I've already walked around and checked in with every single member. And if you're not already calling them by their first name every single time you're engaging with them, do that. And it's literally like a kind of points of performance checklist that we have at the gym where you got to use their name a couple times. And you had to have like a personal touch with each person in the class. And it gets tough when you get past like 12 people. So then after that, we will get everybody set. They've already done the walk through the workout. I've already touched base with all of them. They got a chance to go to the bathroom, use some water or grab some water, use the bathroom. And now we're getting ready for the Metcon. So we crank that music all the way up, get the timer ready, 3, 2, 1, and go. And then from that point, your coaching needs to ramp up, meaning your presence needs to ramp up, not slow down during the Metcon. I can't tell you how many places I've been where they start they start the music, the clock does the countdown, they give the go, and then all of a sudden it's like the coach isn't there anymore. It needs to be the exact opposite. You need to, especially at the beginning of that Metcon and especially at the end of that Metcon, you need to have a large presence in the class. I will typically get I'll clock if I coach 2 classes in a row, I'll clock a mile of walking around because I'm moving that whole time. So if they're doing wall balls or something, I'm walking down saying, good job, Rick. Hey, remember to breathe over there. Zach, wind that feet a little bit. It's going to help get your hips a little bit lower. Great job. Graciano, use those legs, brother. Really big jump on that next rep. There it is. Somebody drops the ball. Okay, big deep breath here, Mason. You're going to pick it up in 3, 2, 1. There you go. Way to go. Back into the fight. And then I'll give some sort of general cue like, keep going, guys. Way to work. We're a minute in, right? And then I'm back down at the other start. Walking my way already over to the other side of the room, touching base with everybody. If they're doing something where it's like a wall ball, they're going to do a power clean. As I see people walking over to their bar, I'll be like, big deep breaths, guys. When we get to that bar, we're going to get 1 in right away. And so they'll walk in, hit that 1 rep. Okay, good. Breathe through this. Let's go. Make sure to keep that bar close. So like you're moving, you're engaged, you're communicating, and then there's an element of cheerleading. Like that really needs to happen and ramp up once that Metcon starts. So, typically, like I'm juggling like a lot of things. So like during the bathroom break or something like that, if I need a moment to either go talk to the coach or like see something or like check another member in or like whatever, or if I'm like waiting for something to come through, like I'll utilize that time after I checked everybody in. But typically once that class starts, like for that hour, I'm fully engaged with the members as much as I can be. And I'll typically coach probably 3 classes in a row, sometimes 4. For all my coaches, we try to keep them just about 2 classes in a row, maybe 3 for like Albert, who's the head coach and runs the gym for us. But typically with that, it's like 2 or 3, because if you're really demanding that much energy, that much movement, that much just giving your members your all, then you're going to be tired after 2 classes in a row. And you'll start to see that start to dive down. So right about 3, stretching at 2 is the sweet spot. And I like 2, especially for newer coaches, because that first class you're going to go through and you're like, damn, I wish I did this. I'm going to change this. I'm going to change that. And then when you go back into your second class, it's like dialed in, and you feel good about it. So that's why I like kind of the 2 back to back, especially for newer coaches, because you get like a chance to, you know, improve upon it or make any little small tweaks that you need to your lesson plan. Samantha, Souza, do you ever get bitchy clients? If so, how do you deal with them? Yeah, of course. There's going to be an element of customer service to it. But it just depends. Like sometimes if you mean by bitchy, like they're just this constant kind of nagging, like complaining, like, oh, we're doing this again, or oh, my legs are beat up. Why would you program this or something like that? Like, I will always try my hardest not really to engage in that, because I don't think they're just kind of like diarrhea at the mouth. There's nothing really like tangible there for you to do. And I think if you start to go to back and forth, it can only harm the relationship. So typically I'll just go the opposite direction. Like someone comes in and be like, geez, we're squatting in today. My legs are still torched from Monday. And I'll say something like, yeah, no, you could definitely lower the weight. Or how about you reduce the reps? And like typically then they're like, no, 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 I'm okay. I'm okay. So that's how I handle that. If you know it's just kind of like frivolous yap, 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 because they just want to come in and complain. And that's okay. They could have a little pressure release valve by coming into the gym and doing that. If you're talking about bitchy in the sense of like they're hypercritical of like other people or whatever, rude to some of the coaches or something, that's something that I definitely will pull them aside and do it on a one-on-one basis. Now, I'm not always perfect at that. As you guys know on the show, sometimes I get a little sassy, get a little mouthy. And that happens in the class, especially if I have like a good relationship with a person, I might like snap back or something. But pretty much I just ignore all of it, unless there's something like tangible there that needs to be addressed, in which case I do. I just handle that member on a one-on-one basis, because you're gonna get much more productive conversation if you're like walk over and I'm like, hey Samantha, can you come over here for a minute? I just want to check in with you. Is everything okay? Like the last couple comments, it just seemed like you were like frustrated with, XYZ or whatever. Like, how's everything going on your end? And then you just shut up and you let them go. Like if you approach that conversation like defensive, even though you're in the right, or at the end of the day, you're like, fuck you, this is my gym, I'm gonna do what I want. If you approach it with genuine curiosity and allow them their chance to kind of give the whole blah, 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 whatever it is, um, typically that kind of works on its own. Or you could double down with them and be like, absolutely, I agree with what you think. So what do you think the best course of action moving forward is? Right. And I kind of put that back on them, because then they'll typically start to think about it as if they're in your shoes and be like, uh, yeah, I don't know. I guess I was just frustrated about it today. I don't really know how you would change that. And I would say, yeah, well, we could try to do this. They're like, yeah, yeah, that makes sense. Okay. Yeah, sorry about that. I guess that wasn't that big of a deal anyways. But if you don't like pull them off to one-on-one, start with the curiosity, ask them questions, ask, how do you see the path moving forward? And if it's something that you made a mistake, just apologize. Be like, wow, damn, yeah, I didn't see it from that perspective. You're right. I'm sorry about that. Here's what I'm going to do moving forward. Does that sound good? Yeah, cool. Then double back and check in with that person. The doubling back and checking in will win you so much long-term clients. Like if there's something where there might have been a little friction with a member during class or something like that happened, I'll typically come over to them. Or if I maybe, as Mary says here, Souza sassy never. Maybe if I was a little sassy or something like that at the end of the class, especially at the end of the workout, I'll come back by and be like, hey, like how was everything about that? Sorry, whatever the case. But that quick like double back to all of them just to check back in, whether it's right there in the same day because it was something that I did or I could have done better, or they had some sort of concern that they brought up, and then you were like, okay, cool, we're going to look into that, and then following back up with them later and being like, hey, thanks again for bringing that our attention, about whatever happened over there. Here's what we had kind of done about it. Number one, they're going to think, oh, wow, like I have a say. Like, damn, that was cool. Like I was able to express this and something happened from that. And you guys know in the world that we live in today, like customer service is gone from most of these major corporations and shit. So if somebody could feel like they have a little bit of like say in what's happening, it goes a really long way. And then on top of that, when you double back in with that person and you're like, hey, this is what happened and, you know, yada, 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 and this is what we do to improve it, they're going to think to themselves like, wow, you actually like cared enough to listen and did something with it, you know, acted on it and followed back up with me. And I'm telling you, it goes a really long way. Even if the follow back up is like, hey, is everything okay? I'm just checking back in with this. And you didn't make any changes to anything. It goes a long way. So, man, awesome tips. Appreciate it. Not things we often discuss as coaches, and it's great to hear feedback from others. Yeah, that's kind of why I wanted to do this show. Number one, I just wanted to get away from the whole like, you know, drama talk of the games and all that stuff. I think that this coaching thing and the affiliates is far more important than kind of like the he said she said drama. And at this point, the he said she said drama isn't really like doing anything besides just cultivating a bunch of like attention and things. Like I don't think there's any like tangible improvements or actions that are coming from it at this point, in terms of like the drama with the games. And so yeah. Like I said too, if I if I wanted to get the views, I could have just labeled this something different and like ranted about it for a while. But I really want to get back to like contributing more to the space. And the space for me is affiliates and coaches. It's the most important thing. Admit when you're wrong, but don't admit it for the sake of making them happy. Really well said. Really, really well said. If there's a tangible issue, admit it, but don't just appease the mob. Yeah, well said. Caller, hello, welcome to the show.
Oh, hey, how are you?
I'm good. What was your name? I think it cut out a little bit.
This is Madison. I'm the one that's commenting back with Madison Perkins.
Hey, Madison, what's going on, man?
Oh, not a lot. That's the question. I said, did you watch the 4 coaches last CrossFit training posted a month ago?
Shit, it's cut. It's like super choppy. Say that one more time for me. I'm sorry.
I just asked a question about much the L4 coaching a class CrossFit training posted.
Yeah, I haven't.
Is that by chance?
No, I haven't seen that. Where is it on their YouTube channel, on their Instagram or something?
Yeah, so I own life. We bought and owned Ute CrossFit probably like 4 years ago, and been doing it for about 8.5 years. But it came in, did a like what does it look like in L4? What your thoughts were?
No, I haven't watched it, but I will definitely like check that out. And I'm sorry, I had to switch the phone a little bit. You said it was on their YouTube channel, CrossFit's YouTube channel?
Yeah, they've done. I think it's the CrossFit training. They've done like a Instagram, a few shorts on there, and then I know that they did a full video. But it was at our gym, and the reason why I was asking if you watched it is because I remember I was talking to them. It was Nicole Carroll.
Mm-hmm.
Anyways, no, not Nicole Carroll. One that owns CrossFit Roots. Is that Nicole Carroll?
No, it's Nicole Christensen.
Christensen, yes. So she came in, and a couple of other guys from like that were at CrossFit Park City back in the day. Anyway, it was super cool to watch them do it. But I like what you were saying about how like not wasting time and those kinds of things when it comes to actually coaching and briefing the class. And I remember asking her, I was like, "Do you run a class like this every time when you run your class at your gym?" She said, "Yes." In my mind, I was like, man, I'd be bored out of my mind. So I really love her. She's amazing, super nice, and I love conversations because she'll have them with you. But it was just, it was an interesting because it was like, this is an air squat. We're going to get below parallel. And it was like, okay, we're like, I have some members that have been at my gym for 15 years. And I'm like, this is an air squat. You know what I mean?
Yes. Yeah. And then everybody's eyes gloss over and they're like, Jesus.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
I think it's pretty cool that you're trying to talk more of like because that's what I coach our coaches at my gym as well. And the conversation you're talking about is something that I've had with them recently. And it was just like, hey, like when you're briefing the class, like look around the room, read the room. You have 1 or 2 new people, but the vast majority of them know what's going on. You don't need to explain every standard, every nuance, every single thing. Like you said, don't read the board. Talk to the members like they're like you're talking to your friend. Hey man, this is what we're up to. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, that's 100% correct. And like, it all goes back to like knowing your athletes, right? So if I got a class of people that I've been coaching over the last like 6 years, it's not doing them any justice being like, so this is their squat. This is how this goes. It's like, no. Give them something more. Like their level has advanced to the point to where like the information I'm disseminating to right now is just boring to them. Like it's not offering anything. And so yeah, it just comes back to knowing your audience who's in front of you. Completely agree.
Yeah, and then using like talking about more of like the briefing, the workout. I feel like that kind of gets glossed over a lot for new coaches because it's like the new coach that doesn't necessarily know it all, but they feel like they do, and they're like, okay, we're going to cover everything, and it's like the briefing at the whiteboard. I feel like kind of gets glossed over. And like I was telling my coach, I was like, use it as a reference point. You know the workout, you know what's going on. If it sounds like you're reading it from the whiteboard, then you've lost your members. You know what I mean? Like you're reading it for the first time. At least that's what it sounds like. So people are gonna be like, oh, this person didn't even come prepared. So it's like use it as a reference point whenever you're looking at the screen. Like, oh, guys, we have 21, 15, 9 thrusters, pull-ups. But if you're like, we have 21, 15, 9, it's like, okay, you've lost me.
Yeah.
And like you said, like coming out with like hey, this is 95-pound thrusters. This should be light. Ideally, I'd like for you to be able to do the 21 unbroken. You don't have to. But yeah, I agree with you. Like coming up with those kind of conversations, like how would you break it up? Tell Class A guys, if I was attacking this is one way. If you're a better gymnastics puller, attack it this way. I agree with you. Like being able to talk to them as if they're your friend, not like an Orange Theory client that you don't know their name. You're never going to see them again.
Yep, 100%. Yeah, well said. Well said.
Cool.
Yeah,
check out those videos. I thought they were pretty good because it really showed a way of breaking it down for, I feel like, beginning coaches, but also like kind of taking it with a grain of salt in a way of like, don't run your class like everybody's brand new every single class.
Yeah.
That's kind of what I was thinking, wondered from that.
Yeah, great point. Great point.
Cool. Appreciate what
awesome.
you got, man.
Thank you so much for the call. Appreciate it, Madison.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, to his point, I did see a little bit of that video, and I remember discussing it with a couple of the other guys in the tech sub that were in, and they were like, "Holy shit, that'd be the most boring class I've ever been in." And it's funny that Madison, I actually said the same thing. Was like, "Holy shit, I'd be so bored." And that's exactly it. Like, if you're gonna what happens too is you lose a little bit of your, quote unquote, like authority as a coach if you're just doing stuff like that, because half the class will just be kind of like turned off to it, and then you try to like gather it, just like the whole entire thing just kind of spins out of control at that point. So like you got to keep them engaged, you got to keep the information that you're giving them relevant. And if you're coaching a class of people that have been with you for 10 years and you're recovering and reinventing the wheel every single time, it's going to seem less relevant to them, and they're going to feel like the majority of the time they're just listening to your talk. Like one rule of thumb that we have at the gym is if you are talking more than they are moving, something went wrong. Like the class should be moving way more than you're talking to them. Like they didn't sign up here to come to your fucking TED Talk. They came here because they want to move, they want to sweat, they want to work out, and they want to be here with their friends. Like they don't want to listen to give a lecture. And if you want to give a lecture, that's awesome. Just be like, hey, I'm doing this thing on Saturday where I'm going to, discuss in detail a wall ball for 2 hours. Like, great. Maybe a few people will show up to that. But yeah, it's always about like, keeping them moving, keeping it fun, keeping it entertaining. And like I said, if you're talking more than they're moving, then that's just a mental note for you to be like, okay, I screwed that up, especially in the drills. Like when we're doing the instructional piece, like I try to speak as little as possible. Hands that, like for the instance in the snatch, hands nice and wide, drop into position 1, knees bent, chest vertical. Good, set and go. Hold. Awesome. Stand. Bars back to the hip, reset, feet back underneath the hips, set and go. Hold, right? Like it's just like boom, 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 boom. And it needs to be quick and precise. And like I had said earlier, like if you have the wheels falling off the bus on 1 or 2 clients, it's not, you don't run over there and stop everything else for them. You just take that mental note and say, okay, as soon as I'm done with this instructional thing, I'm beelining right over to those 2 people to make the tweaks. And I should add as well too, that we have at the gym 8 15-pound barbells. And I typically give those to everybody who's brand new to snatch and clean. So that way, as we're going through the drills and stuff, they could screw it up as royally as they would like, and it's not going to hurt them. And then they could get a little weight on the bar. And typically what I tell the new members, if you're using complex movement like that, is the terminology that I'll use is I'll say, hey, just get enough weight on the bar to where it gives you feedback. I won't say make it heavier. I won't say add weight. I'll say, hey, let's get a little feedback on this bar. Go grab a set of 10s. Go grab a set of 5s, right? Depending on who's in front of you. Because sometimes if you do too much with the PVC pipe doesn't give them enough feedback to actually feel the movement. And then that's going to slow their progress a little bit. So typically I'll use that terminology, which helps, because sometimes if you're like, add some weight to that, they get all freaked out and they're like, I barely know what I'm doing. But if you say, hey, let's get a little set of 5s on there, I just want that bar to give you a little more feedback. Feels really light, right? I'm like, yeah, it does. I'm like, okay, cool. Go add those 5s. Hey, how'd that feel? Better. I can actually feel that movement a little bit. Awesome. Let's swap those out for some 10s. Cool. Can you feel that now? Yeah. Now I can feel my legs working in that push press. Awesome. So anyways, then after the walkthrough of the workout, after the bathroom break, after a chance to check in with everybody, 3, 2, 1, go. Music comes up. You are active. You're moving around. And then the rule that we have at the gym for me is that if it's a 4-time workout, we always have a time cap on that. And nobody is allowed to clean up their equipment until the time cap is done. Then once the time cap hits and everybody's done, we all clean up together at the end. And typically I make those time caps like reasonable, meaning if you did the workout in the way it was intended, you will finish under the time cap, typically. And then we all clean up together at the end. Everybody gets a little high five, and out the door, they clean up their equipment, and they start all back over for the next class. And that is how I coach a CrossFit class at CrossFit Livermore. This is what we teach all of our new coaches. And I have a multiple week kind of build up or intern program, if you will. I'm trying to see. Oh, yeah. Okay, I could show you guys this part of it here because I have this. Let me switch this. Let me move this over to this screen. Let's see if it'll let me share this screen here. Oh, cool. There it is. Okay, so onboard process. This is what it looks like for us at CFL, Conditioning for Life. Onboard process. In the office, sit down and review company culture and mature coach model. Those are just basically like the framework of how we behave at CrossFit Livermore as coaches. I talk to them about their personal goals. So when you come in as a coach with me, I need to know what makes you tick. What do you want out of this? What do you want out of life? And I know that seems kind of crazy, but I like to know that about people, because if I know what your goals are and what your self-interests are, then I could definitely we could work together to help make that happen. Job description, expectation outline, and then we calendar day 1 that they're going to come in. I collect the appropriate credentials, W-9, L1, coaching certs, signed CFL documents, all the stuff that they'll go through here. Then after that, the first day is at their front desk. They walk through. Day 1 is a walkthrough and shadow. It's a review of what they learned. Then we calendar the next training days. Day 2, they train, trainer shadows them. Then they review and feedback. And this is all just the front desk stuff. So how to get people in and out of WOD together. How do they sign up for classes? How do you, whatever. All those little logistics, kind of housekeeping things go in these first couple of days. On the floor training, intern coach shadows the coach during class. Whiteboard breakdown, what's the purpose, what's intended, stimulus, etc. These are things that we're wanting them to look for and write down in their notes that we'll be discussing after they shadow the class. Then there's a whiteboard competency test. This doesn't necessarily come right after this first day, but this comes after like a while. We want to write up a couple workouts, and I'll say, hey, tell me what's on these workouts. Go through a couple quick whiteboard debriefs with me. Then the next step for them is to run the whiteboard debrief in front of the class. So they take control of just that section, just the whiteboard debrief, gets them out in front of the classes, starts to shake some of those nerves out of public speaking, but they don't have to worry about the whole day. I just want to compartmentalize, just like we do with our movements, right? We progress in our movements, strict press, push, jerk. I want to do the same thing in my coaching, just the whiteboard debrief. Then we pull them back out and they kind of shadow the rest of the time. Then they'll roam the floor, give some members some feedbacks and cues only when the coach and intern feel comfortable with advancement. That's big there. Then they do a whiteboard and scaling or a warm up and scaling competency test. So we'll write up a couple warm ups. We'll write up a couple workouts, and then we want them to write up a few warm-ups for it. Like, I want to get inside their head. What does the general warm-up look like? What does the specific movements look like that they're doing? And then the scaling competency test will just be right again with those same workouts that we've written up on the board to test them there. We will throw some things at them like, hey, I can't use my left shoulder. What do I scale for this? Or, hey, my low back hurts. How do you scale this? Or, hey, I'm brand new and my cardio sucks. How do I scale this? And so we'll throw a couple things at them with just us and a coach or two inside of the room, just so we could see like how they're going to field those questions. And are they like thinking shooters yet? Do they know what to do? And then we switch rules. The intern class or the intern coach runs the whole entire class, and the coach shadows them. And then we have the new coach runs a class, and then we give feedback immediately following their first 3 classes. So we'll kind of do this. They run the class, and then we shadow, and then we'll do that for 3 classes and give them some feedback. And then we have them complete 3 review sheets for their first solo classes. So they'll do that 3 times with somebody watching them, one of the coaches watching them as they go through the class, and then we'll give them a little feedback on their class afterwards. And then we give them a little space. So once we've done all of that, they get 10 classes to get back into the groove of things and kind of get their own voice and get their feet underneath them and get more comfortable with it. And then after the 10 classes, we'll give more of like an official feedback or review. And so that's kind of what that process looks like. And I like the checklist and all that stuff on there. And this is kind of even a little bit of an older model. I think we've revised this maybe a little bit since then, but I like to have it to where they know exactly where they are in this process. The other coaches who, you might not always be with me, you might not always be with Albert, you might be with Grace or something like that. So they could just look at that sheet and know where you are there. And then we like to just have those tests. And by the way, that's like after you get the L1, right? So like when people show up and they're like, you just think you could take the L1 and you're a coach. It's like, not at my gym. The L1 is like an introduction. Like running the classes completely solo and getting through that whole thing is basically like a marriage at that point, right? So it's like nobody thinks that just because you met an acquaintance, you met the chick at the bar, you got introduced to her, like all of a sudden you guys are getting married, right? So that's what I view the L1 as. The L1 is like you just met the chick at the bar, you just got her name. Like you still have to go through the whole entire learning and courting process before you could really be like, yeah, we're together. So the L1 is just that, it's just the introduction. Now it's up to you to take all that material and put it into practical application, go through that courting process, learn the whole entire thing intimately. Then you could start to be like, okay, now you're on your solid journey of being a coach. And with the fire departments and stuff like that, like your knowledge has to be really high. Like not only your emotional intelligence and everything else, but like your skill set. Like if someone comes in as like, my low back hurts, you need to be able to know in your mind, do I have a playbook and assessment to like roll them through to understand why their back hurts? And that takes like years of seeing, correcting, studying, learning, all of that stuff. So that's the way we do it. Coaches at my gym are just babysitters. That sucks. I'm sorry. Souza coaches like a true level 2 trainer who continues to do his homework for improvement. Thank you. Try. And I must admit too, like, this is all the work over the last like 10, 12 years, really, even before I was owned the gym. And still to this day, I need to make sure that I carve time out for this, because the stuff like the podcast and like this whole media thing I'm doing, and working a lot with the Broken Science and the fire departments and stuff like that, admittedly, like a lot of my time from continuing being right in the forefront of learning a lot of that stuff has slowed down quite a bit. And so I always got to make sure that I'm keeping up with that as much as I am everything else. There's extra sloppy. There's a ton of people providing personal training with no certifications at all, but CrossFit is berated by people complaining about the L1 isn't enough. Totally, dude. And all the other certifications and stuff like that don't even have any practical like movement happening in front of them, where you're in a breakout group with the coach, seeing and correcting movement, getting your movement corrected, all of that type of stuff. So like, the fact that people would say that about the L1 is just like totally mischaracterizing it. Ian, when do classes start? 9, 9:02, 9:05? How often do your classes go over on time, and how does that impact your okay, so great question, Ian. We start exactly on time. So we try to, as much as we can, start it. If the class is at 9 a.m., the class starts at 9 a.m. That might be a little conversation if you know that a couple people are still getting in or something like that. But typically, I'm in front of the whiteboard, available and ready for my class 5 minutes before that class starts, already engaging with them. And at 9 o'clock, let's say in this example, then I'm at that whiteboard starting that process of it. And then we typically try to end 10 minutes before the hour, have everybody take a little cool down walk. We have like a 100-meter little walk right in front of the building. So I'll have people go out, take a little cool down walk. And then they'll come in. We've been trying to have them cool down a little bit more with some stretching, some foam rolling right before they take off the door. This is a newer process that we're implementing now, and it's hard because everybody, even just to get them to take a little cool down walk before they come back and clean up their equipment, sometimes it's hard because everybody's got life. You know, they might just have that hour and they got to get out of there. But typically we start right on time, and typically we end about 10 minutes before the hour. Gives people a little cool down time, a little cleanup time, a little conversation time with their friends. Because remember, the magic of the connection, the community happens on the in-betweens. The classes crossing over each other, people running into each other as one is leaving and one is coming, people after the workout taking that walk together and having a conversation with each other. Like that is when those relationships are being fostered. And sometimes it's tough because they all want to talk over you and they're excited to see their friends, and you still have your job to do. They all came to work out, so you got to still move them through the workout. And I'm very thankful that nobody in here put, how do you feel about coaches working out with your members? Because if you're the one in charge of that class as the coach, and you are also working out, you are not coaching anybody. You are just working out. And I do think it's important for coaches to work out with their members, just not when they're coaching the damn class. I like to use my experiences with the workout. Like this movement really fatigued my grip, and this is what I did to help me keep me moving around X. This is from Natalie here. This is what I did to help keep me moving around round X. Is where I struggled with X. So remember to pace. Perfect. That is exactly it. That is the type of information. What Natalie said here, she nailed it. This is the type of information that is important to your members, and they'll actually hold their attention, as opposed to like what Madison was saying, when you're just reading it off the thing, it makes you look unprepared. When you're able to be like, hey guys, we got 15:21, 9 of thrusters and pull-ups today at 95 and 65. So and then boom, you go into kind of the conversation that Natalie's having here. That's what's going to keep them engaged, and that information is really useful for them coming into the class. So that's good. And I dropped in at CrossFit. Odmanson and Greg did Fight Gone Bad with us as the coach. So yeah, he didn't coach the class. He worked out. It also reinforces that you're Layla. It also reinforces that you are doing the same workouts as them. Oh, great point. Yes. She's referring to Natalie's comment about explaining the workout. And then this says it also reinforces that you did the same workouts as them, which is hugely important. Because if they know that you're kind of taking your own medicine, that's a big deal. Yeah, you're right. Great point, Lily. Great point. Okay, guys, we have a lot of discussions like this one. So if this was something that you were into and you enjoyed, typically, and I've been able to do this for quite a few weeks now. Show you here. Typically, we have a call every Friday. It's more of a roundtable discussion that we lead at the affiliate forum here on Media Launch. They're all scheduled through here. Usually we'll put my show in there and Greg's show in there, but yesterday was just a crazy day with getting back from everything and having Colton at the gym. I was just so far behind. But anyways, everything is here for you guys. There's a bunch of different stuff. Everybody's having great discussions in here. Like I said, we do these calls and talk about coaching and those type of things every Friday, typically about a half hour. Last Friday's ran about an hour because we all had interesting things to say. But yeah, so if you guys want to be a part of that, it's completely free. You could join at school.com/media launch. and you will have all the stuff there. My hope is that this is just a good resource for coaches, affiliates, and everybody in between, because no one else is coming to save us. It's going to be up to us. Definitely not seeing a lot of stuff coming out of HQ. Even if it opened up for more in-depth questions that the athletes didn't even know they had. Yes, exactly. Facilitating that conversation. Waiting on admit approval. Is that you? Oh, dog, I got you. I got you. In there, baby. In there. Got you. All right, guys. Thanks so much for joining. I hope you got something out of this show. I know we kind of went all over the place, and I will get to that email that I had with Harry next week. Let's dive into a little bit of that immersion, and I'll kind of recap that experience. I think that would be fun. So hopefully you guys got something out of it. Thank you so much for hanging out. I really appreciate all you guys. Always, always, always. And as remember, guys, all we have in this CrossFit community, in the community at large, is each other. So please, please, please be good to each other out there. If you find an opportunity to contribute to somebody who you know or who you don't, a stranger, do so. Selfishly, it'll probably make your day a hell of a lot better. Peace out.